Hi, I'm Philip Bridges, and today I'm going to show you how to change your whole house water filter. You're going to need one of these water filters. We're going to change the old one. So what you're going to do is first you go to where your water filter is, and then which mine is right here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the water that's coming off into the house. I'm just going to shut that off. And what you want to do is I always, whenever I'm turning a water valve on or off, I don't do it fast, I do it slow. And so you're just going to want to shut that off. I have a little valve up here that I leave on. You can shut it off, but what I do instead is I don't mess with this valve because it's plastic. It's one of those like CPVC valves, and it's old, and I don't want to keep moving it, and I don't want it to break. So what I do is I have a slop sink in here, and so what I do is I go over and I'll just turn the faucet on and it'll drain the system. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And it just releases the pressure in the system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to open our whole house filter. And what you want to do is when you change these filters out, you're going to want to change them out. Like it depends on how rusty and stagnant your water is. You can change them out every month, every 2 months, every 3 months. It all depends on how heavy, what you have in your water basically. I usually do mine about every 90 days. Summertime I kind of do it a little bit more, but wintertime I do it about every 90 days. So if you have one of these that comes with your water filter for your whole house kit, this is to unloosen your water filter. So you're going to want to slide that on there and hold it with your other hand so you're just not pulling on the whole water filter and pulling on the pipes. You want to kind of stabilize it. And in this case, some of them have a pressure release valve on it, and you're going to want to push on that so it kind of release the pressure in the system. There, mine just kind of did it. And some of these also have, like if you have a newer filtration system, mine's a little bit older, it has a bypass valve. And so what is kind of nice is you don't even have to shut off your whole water to your house and everything like that. It just has like a little knob on the top, and it just kind of bypasses it. It'll tell you if it's a bypass valve or not on a new system. And when you do this, you want to make sure that you don't have anything going like your laundry or your dishwasher, or someone's taking a shower and you just shut the water off on them, and so it's going to be kind of bad. Well, it's not really bad, it's just you're going to have to go around and redo everything and make sure everything's turned back on, and you're going to have to calm down that loved one you just shut the shower off on. But anyways, and then you're going to hold the filtration system with one hand, and you're just going to unloosen it. It should just come right off, kind of pop right off. And this whole filter is going to be filled with water, so it's going to be kind of heavy. And just kind of do it a little slow and screwing it just so it kind of releases more of the pressure. And as you can hear, it's coming out of my sink over there. It's kind of draining out. So the more air that gets into the system, it's pushing the water out into the sink. And that's why I like to have I open the valve on the sink. And if you don't have a slop sink right next to you, you can do it on any sink in the house. So just slowly undo it. Now you don't want to do it too fast because you don't want to get water everywhere. But you're going to get a little water somewhere. You just make sure you have a towel, and that way you can just clean it up when you're done. Okay, so you're good. There on the top of this filter system, there is a seal, and you don't want to lose that seal. So I'm going to take this over to the slop sink. I'm just going to dump it out. And that filter feels like it weighs about 2 or 3 pounds. And so I'm going to take this off, and what I do is with this O-ring, I don't dry it off all the way, but there's a little rust around it and from buildup, and I'll just just go around it a couple times and clean it off a little bit, but I don't want to dry it out too much. If you notice that these rings are dried out, they do sell replacement ones at any hardware store, and so you can get a new one. And then I take a rag and I just kind of wipe out this whole filter, because you're gonna have buildup in here of iron and everything like that, and you just don't want that going right back into the filter when you put a new one on. So I'm gonna grab a couple more rags, or clean cloths. That's what you want to use basically, is clean cloths. You don't want to use dirty rags, just use new ones. And then you just wipe it all out, clean it all out. And so with the, what I like to do with the O-ring gasket is, see, look at all that rust buildup that's in here. You don't want to get that back in on your new filter. You're trying to keep everything clean. You just don't want that all back in there. So, okay, now that that's clean, the O-ring, if your O-ring is a little bit dried out, and what you can do is take just a little bit of Vaseline. That's what I do, and I just I dip a little bit on my fingers, and then I just rub it around on the O-ring, just so it kind of lubricates it and gives it more of a better seal. And then all you're gonna do is you're gonna set the O-ring right back on top. In the filter, there is at the bottom, there's like a little groove, and that's what you're gonna just place the filter kind of in between that. It just kind of centers it before just so it's just not hanging in there. It kind of, once you put this all together, it's just going to press on it, and it's going to stabilize the filter and everything like that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to slowly put this right back on the filtration system. We want to make sure, your gasket doesn't move. You're just going to slowly spin it back on. And you don't want to make sure you cross thread it. Don't cross thread it, else you're going to get water everywhere when you turn the filter back on. And then so we're just gonna lightly snug this up. You don't want to over tighten it, because when you put it on and you turn the water back on, it's going to pressurize the system, and it's going to be really hard to get that filter back off later on. You're going to be using this, and you're going to really crank on it, and you don't want to really crank on it. You want to just be able to kind of give it a little tap with this, just to break that little lock on it, and then pull the filter off. You don't want it to get too much pressure build up in there, because it'll actually work against you, and you can get more leaks out of it. So just hand tighten it. So what you're going to do is you're going to slowly, I still have my faucet on over there, and so that's going to let all the air out of the system when I slowly turn the valve back on. You don't want to just turn the valve on fast. You want to slowly introduce water back into the system. So you're going to hear some gurgling, and what you want to do is you want to check for leaks. As you notice, there was a little water dripping on this, but hopefully once the pressure in the system is back on, it'll stop that leak. It's just basically the system is pressurizing again. And so what I also like to do is I also like to grab some paper towels or a towel, and I'll wipe off the filter around it, just to make sure that there are no new leaks or anything like that. Okay, so I did have a little leak. What I was talking about, I thought I saw a couple dribbles coming down off the side of the filter, and I let it run for about 10 minutes, and yeah, it wasn't stopping. So I had to shut the water back off, and when I went to loosen it, I noticed that it was it wasn't on all the way. So I just redid it again, like how I said. I turned the water off. I just took the whole thing off, just make sure everything was seated, the O-ring was good. And so what I did is I just put it all back together and slowly turned it back on, and turned the water and everything back on, and just kind of watched it. It dribbled for a couple seconds, and then everything was good. So, you know, nobody's perfect, and just always double check your work, and just to make sure you do it right. And especially with water, you don't want to have a big mess later on. You know, let dribble and be like, oh well, it'll go away. Well, you want to make sure it goes away, and you want to keep checking on it just to make sure it doesn't continue to dribble, and then it's going to become a puddle, and then that puddle becomes more of a mess. And so you just want to check your work. So with that said, I'm Philip Bridges, and thank you for watching.